Russell Wilson possibly choosing the Jets is not a random late-career headline. It is the clearest proof yet that the New York Giants have already closed that chapter. The Giants were stuck in the middle for too long. Not bad enough to fully tear it down. Not stable enough to convince anybody that the plan was working. But something is changing behind the scenes now, and what nobody is paying attention to is how clean this quarterback pivot has become. Wilson is reportedly weighing a contract offer from the Jets. He is also considering a move to TV. That tells you two things at once. 1. His Giants run is over in every meaningful way. 2. Big Blue is no longer pretending a temporary answer can become the foundation. Jackson Dart is the current Giants starting quarterback. John Harbaugh is the head coach. And when you connect those dots, this is not just about Russell Wilson. This is about the franchise finally choosing a direction. And that direction changes everything. Let's be honest about where things stand, because this is where it gets real. The Giants are coming off a disappointing 2025 season. That matters because disappointment is not just a record. It is a symptom. It means the roster was not tough enough, not consistent enough, and not complete enough to survive the weekly grind. The quarterback room had no long-term clarity. Wilson's short Giants chapter never became the permanent answer. The offense needed a real future, not another stopgap conversation. Fans were tired of talking themselves into temporary solutions. The holes are clear. The Giants needed a quarterback direction. They needed a stronger identity. They needed to stop patching leaks with names that sounded good in March, but did not solve the deeper problem in September. And the roster weaknesses were not limited to quarterback. The run defense was a major weakness that had to be fixed. That is not a small issue. If you cannot stop the run, you cannot control games. You cannot protect leads. You cannot force opponents into predictable passing situations. That weakness damages everything else. It puts more stress on the offense. It exposes the secondary. It makes the pass rush less dangerous. It turns manageable Sundays into exhausting survival tests. And that is why Wilson possibly landing with the Jets matters right now. Not because Giants fans should be emotional about him leaving. Not because this is some revenge tour. It matters because his next step reveals how completely Big Blue has moved on. Wilson is weighing football against television. The Jets may see a role for him, but the Giants are no longer waiting around for that kind of uncertainty. They have a starter. They have a head coach with a defined edge. They have a roster that needs to become more physical. And that brings us to what just happened. Russell Wilson may not be done in New York after all, but if he stays, it might be wearing green. That line has real weight, because it says everything about where both New York teams are standing. The Jets are reportedly offering him a contract. Wilson is reportedly weighing that offer while also considering a TV analyst opportunity. Here is the emotional translation. When a quarterback is choosing between another locker room and a broadcast desk, he is not being treated like the unquestioned future of a franchise. He is being treated like a short-term option. And that is exactly why the Giants moved on. This is not disrespect. This is clarity. Wilson's short Giants chapter may be officially closing, and I think that is the right outcome. I know some fans will hear the name and think about reputation. They will think about experience. They will think about what he used to represent. But the Giants cannot build their next era around nostalgia. They already tried temporary thinking. It did not give them a foundation. The Giants are turning the page at quarterback. That means Jackson Dart is not just holding a seat. He is the direction. He is the bet. He is the player the coaching staff now has to build around, challenge, protect, and develop. And this is the part nobody is talking about. Wilson possibly going to the Jets makes the Giants' decision look cleaner, not messier. If Wilson were still viewed as the obvious answer, this conversation would not be framed around weighing a Jets offer and a TV opportunity. It would be framed around a team handing him the keys. That is not what this is. This is a veteran quarterback evaluating what kind of final act makes sense. The Jets may envision him as a stabilizer, a mentor, a bridge, or a short-term insurance policy. That can make sense for them, depending on their own room. But for the Giants, it would have been a trap. Not because Wilson cannot play a role somewhere. He can. Not because his experience has no value. It does. But Big Blue needed more than value. Big Blue needed alignment. Quarterback, coach, roster identity, and long-term vision all have to point in the same direction. If they do not, you get half measures. You get mixed messaging. You get another season where the franchise is explaining why the plan needs more time. John Harbaugh taking over as head coach only sharpens that point. Harbaugh teams are not supposed to drift. They are supposed to know exactly what they are. Tough, physical, demanding, uncomfortable to play against. That kind of coach does not need a quarterback cloud hanging over the building. He needs the room settled. So when Wilson's name pops up with the Jets, Giants fans should not panic. They should exhale. The exit is no longer theoretical. The pivot is real. The Giants are not stuck between eras anymore. They are making a choice. And when you see how that choice connects to the rest of the roster, the whole picture gets sharper. The quarterback page is turning, but a new quarterback does not fix a soft identity by himself. If Big Blue is serious about a reset, the next step has to be the trenches. And that is where the run defense conversation becomes impossible to ignore. The source brief points directly to fixing major weaknesses like run defense. That matters because this is not cosmetic. This is not about adding a few names and hoping the vibes change. This is about admitting that the Giants could not be the team they wanted to be if opponents could dictate terms on the ground. Here is the emotional translation. Run defense is the attitude test. Passing stats can swing. Coverage can be matchup-based. But stopping the run tells the league whether you are willing to hit people for 4 quarters. The New York Football Giants should never be easy to move. That is why Wilson's exit and the defensive reset belong in the same conversation. They are both about refusing to live in denial. The Giants are no longer pretending that a short-term quarterback answer fixes everything. They are also no longer pretending that roster identity is some abstract slogan. Identity is built through decisions. Who starts at quarterback? Who gets pushed out? Who gets added? Who gets replaced? What weaknesses get attacked first? John Harbaugh being the head coach matters here because the standard changes. This is not a staff built to shrug at physical problems. If the run defense is a major weakness, then that weakness becomes a direct challenge to the entire operation. And I love that. Because for years, too many Giants conversations were about survival. Can they survive the offensive line? Can they survive the quarterback uncertainty? Can they survive another defensive breakdown? Can they survive another reset? That is loser language. Harbaugh's job is to make this team proactive, not reactive, not hopeful, not cute. The G-men have to become the team forcing other people to adjust. And the run defense is the perfect place to prove that the reset has teeth. If you want Jackson Dart to grow, stop putting him in games where every possession feels desperate. If you want the offense to breathe, give it field position. If you want the pass rush to matter, make opponents throw when they do not want to throw. That is the Big Blue wrecking crew mentality fans are starving for. Not a slogan, a standard. And when you combine that with the Wilson situation, you see the same message twice. The Giants are done living in the past. If Wilson's possible Jets move shows the old chapter closing, and the run defense focus shows the roster reset, then Jackson Dart is the proof of the new plan. He is the current Giants starting quarterback. That sentence matters because it removes the fog. Here is the emotional translation. The Giants are not building around a question anymore. They are building around an answer they chose. Now, does that mean Dart is already a finished product? No, and I would never sell you that kind of nonsense. But there is a massive difference between developing a chosen starter and wandering through another season of temporary fixes. Dart gives the Giants something Wilson no longer could in this building. A future that belongs to the team, not a resume that belongs to the past. That is why the Jets' angle is so fascinating. Wilson may still have football left. He may choose the Jets. He may choose TV. Either way, the Giants are not the team waiting on his decision. That is power. For the first time in a while, Big Blue can look at a quarterback headline involving a former Giant and say, that is not our problem anymore. And that is more than meets the eye. Because the real reset is not just personnel. It is emotional. It is organizational. It is the franchise finally refusing to be haunted by names, shortcuts, and half plans. The Giants have a quarterback direction. They have a head coach with a hard-edged identity. They have obvious roster flaws to attack, starting with run defense. That is not perfection, but it is a foundation. And now comes the part where I am taking a side. Hot take. Russell Wilson going to the Jets would be good for the New York Giants. And I am not backing down from that. Not because I am rooting against Wilson. I am not. But because it would officially end any lingering fantasy that Big Blue should revisit that bridge. My prediction is simple. Jackson Dart starts every meaningful game this season, and the Giants win at least 9 games. Here is the emotional translation. 9 wins means the Giants are not just rebuilding. They are forcing the NFC to treat them like a serious weekly problem. If I am wrong, I will come back to this video and own it. I will say I misread the reset. I will say I gave the plan too much credit. But I do not think I am wrong. And here is the player I am planting my flag on. Jackson Dart is the right quarterback for this moment because the Giants need ownership, not celebrity. They need a starter growing with the team, not a veteran keeping the seat warm while everyone argues about the future. Wilson had his Giants chapter. It is over. Dart has the next one. And Giants fans need to stop treating that like a question mark and start treating it like the project this franchise chose. That is the line in the sand. Are you riding with the reset, or are you still asking for the old safety blanket? Big Blue is back at the table. And this time, the plan is not built around yesterday's name. Russell Wilson weighing the Jets, and TV tells me the Giants made the right pivot. Jackson Dart is the current starter. John Harbaugh is the head coach. The run defense has to be fixed. The identity has to get tougher. That is the reset this franchise needed. Now I want a real answer from Giants fans. If Russell Wilson signs with the Jets, are you relieved because the Giants finally moved on? Or are you worried Big Blue let a useful veteran walk across town? Pick a side. No fence sitting. If you're riding with the G-men through this rebuild, you know where that subscribe button is. We break down every move, every rumor, and every shift in philosophy that shapes this franchise. The old chapter is closed. The new one starts with conviction. Go Big Blue.